Olivia Jones, and I work on, I'm a Green Schools Officer and a Coastal Programmes Officer with Pashka, so I work on the Clean Coast and Blue Flag Programme also. So I'm based up in Sligo, and I work with loads of community groups and schools and businesses, surf clubs, who've adopted their local stretch of coastline, and we help them organise beach cleans and look after it. So I'm talking about marine litter today. I know you're all experts, so I'm really preaching to the converted. So if I make a mistake or I forget something, don't be afraid to shout up and correct me. But I actually don't think we have this many marine experts in one room here in Ireland today, so it's great to have you all. So we'll get started. I've only 10 minutes and the sands are dropping away. So we're going to talk about marine litter, and I'm going to talk about it asking the following questions. What is it? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Who does it impact? And what can we do individually or collectively? So first of all, what is marine litter? So it's any man-made material or object that ends up in the marine environment. Where does it come from? So some of you might come from schools. I know there's schools here from Carlow and all over that they're actually landlocked. I'm myself from Monaghan, so we don't touch the ocean, but in Ireland, nowhere is really more than an hour and a half from the sea. So if you live beside a river, or if you live in a town or city where there's drainage, or if it's, Ireland's quite windy, marine litter can end up in the marine environment through following rivers, sewage systems, drainage. So if they're dropped in towns and cities, they can end up in our drainage systems. If they're, dropped along rivers and things like that. Also, mismanaged waste treatment systems as well can leave their sewerage systems. And also on beaches and along the coastline, so things like tourism and recreation. If we have people might bring a picnic to the beach, barbecues, all those kind of things, they may leave their litter behind. The other 20% comes from sea-based activities, so fishing and shipping. So I'm going to quickly go through just the types of litter you might find from those activities. So first of all, unfortunately, 70% of marine litter is plastic. And the reason that's unfortunate is that all of the marine litter that's entered the environment is still there in some shape or form, either as whole pieces or fragments. And it's estimated that 10 million tonnes of plastic enter the marine environment every year. And that's, depending on what research you're reading, between 6 and 12 million tonnes. So just every year with Clean Coast during September, we have a big beach clean, and we survey the types of marine litter groups are finding on the beaches. And the number one item that washes up or that's found on beaches are plastic bottles and lids, followed by cans and sweet wrappers and cigarette butts, which some people don't seem to think is litter. Then you also have in your home, your wastewater can really contribute to marine litter, and we're talking about microbeads. Now I know some of you are going to be talking about microbeads later maybe, and they are small little beads of plastic that are added to cosmetic and hygiene products such as face wash. So they're used as scrubs and toothpaste. And when they enter your sewage systems, they're really, and they end up in aquatic environments, they're very hard to remove because they're so small. And I'm delighted to say that the government are actually planning to ban these in 2017, they're going to introduce a law working with the EU. So I think that's really great and progressive. Also microfibers. So clothing can be made from spun plastic, so things like fleeces. There was a report by Plymouth University just recently saying that one fleece alone, when it's put into the wash machine, can release 700,000 pieces of fibre. So those little pieces that you see there can enter the marine environment and can have an impact on the species that live there. Sewage, so you can see some items up there. 3 in every 10 adults in Ireland have admitted to flushing these down the toilet. Now I know we all know that the only thing we should go down the toilet is tissue, isn't it? But cotton buds and baby wipes, all those shouldn't go down the loo. So fishing, what it contributes to marine litter. So the number one item that our groups are finding on beaches when they conduct studies are string, cord, rope and nets. So those are the kind of items that keep on fishing, and we'll talk a little bit about that, about ghost fishing in a minute. And then shipping, strapping bands, plastic sheeting. So strapping bands are a bit like, you've all seen a bale of briquettes with that orange band that goes around it. So bales and bales of those can go missing overboard, and they're quite sharp. If you've ever lifted them, they leave an indent in your hand. So you can imagine the damage they do to wildlife. So any of the items I talked about that are made of plastic have the capacity to become a microplastic. And that's defined as anything that's less than 5 millimetres or half a centimetre. And it's any plastic object that ends up in the marine environment and is bashed around on waves or broken down by the UV light of the sun over time. So those little microplastics are actually cause way more devastation than the huge pieces, because they have the ability to affect more species such as zooplankton. So where does it go? So there's no such thing as away. When we throw something away, it must go somewhere. So away isn't this lovely land of Narnia where rubbish goes to congregate. Unfortunately, it has to go somewhere, and 15% is found in the coastline, 15% is found in the water, floating around in the water, and 70% is on the seabed. And just to give you an interesting story about how we are all connected, and it's not just Ireland working alone to remove marine litter, we all have to work together. And this is a story about, it's a true story, about a cargo of rubber ducks that went down off the coast of China in 1992, 30,000 of them in fact. And within a few months they started taking the dominant currents and washing up in Indonesia and Australia. Some of them hitched a ride to the Great Ocean Garbage Patch in the Gyres, which I know someone's going to talk about later on. I can't remember the name of the school, but I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. A couple of years later, as time went on, they started washing up in South America. 11 years later, they started making landfall in the east coast of America and the UK. So it really does bring it home how connected we are through our ocean highways. So who does it impact? So it's not just marine species, you can see from that photo. That was actually taken on a beach in Ireland, not India, where you might expect to see cows roaming, but it's not just the marine species. So first of all, it impacts us, humans, our health and economy, and the environment, habitats and wildlife. So human health, so sharp objects on beaches can injure beach users, and chemicals from plastics can enter the food chain. So we talk about those microplastics, they can enter up through the food chain and they cause all kinds of nasty problems if there's a lot there. The economy, so damage to fishing boats, so ropes and nets can get caught up in propellers. Ghost fishing can outcompete fishing industry. So you've got those stray nets floating around, fishing away, and there's no one there to take the fish in. So it's actually competing with the fishing industry itself. And dirty beaches impact tourism. Nobody wants to go to a dirty beach when they're on their holidays. Okay, so habitat, so it can smother the seabed, crush and damage coral, block out the sunlight. So we looked at that video about phytoplankton, didn't we, and how it needs the sunlight, and it's actually the basis of the food chain in the marine environment and how important it is. So we really need for light to get through to the ocean for those, and it can allow invasive species to hitch a ride. So wildlife, so this is a pretty gory photo, and I should have warned you before I hit it, I'm really sorry. This photo was taken in Ireland as well. It's of a seal who got caught up in a fishing net. Seals are really playful and inquisitive, so they like to play around with objects that maybe they want to find out more, but unfortunately this guy got caught up and it really, he had to struggle then to eat and fish, so unfortunately he died. Other ingestion, so like I mentioned, species from zooplankton right up to whales can ingest marine plastic, and it can have issues such as blocking and damaging digestive systems, causing starvation due to a feeling of fullness, and marine species can absorb toxins from plastics in their body tissue. And this is the bird I found on a beach in Sligo with the school in Ballinode College, Community College. And there's the lady in Heidi Ankampora who's working in GMIT on the Irish Seabird project. So we sent it down to her, and she performed an autopsy, and she found this plastic in the stomach of the bird. And it turns out 93% of the birds that she has examined in Ireland of northern fulmars have plastic. So it's not, we've all seen the pictures of the albatross from those islands, so it's happening here in Ireland as well. So what can we do? First of all, we can reduce waste by cutting plastic, so we might introduce taxes like the plastic bag levy. I'm sure you can all agree that there aren't that many plastic bags floating around anymore. Produce and buy less single-use plastic items, so produce less, and actually when we're in the supermarket, think about what we're buying. Try to use reusable water bottles like I see so many here in front of me. Reuse products and materials repeatedly. Recycle objects to extract materials and resources and perhaps convert them to energy. We could try and hopefully improve waste management systems in developing countries, because unfortunately that's where a lot of our marine litter is, that's where a lot of litter is entering the marine environment. And it's not that we should blame them, because a lot of our waste is being sent out there as well, so we're all in it together. We can take part in beach cleans and marine litter awareness initiatives, which I'm going to talk a little bit now before I wrap up. So join a Clean Coast group. There are over 520 Clean Coast groups nationwide, so they're as big as one person up to 100 people. So even if you're not near the coastline, you can still take part and organise a river clean or a lake clean. You can do a 2-minute beach clean, and if you're not beside the beach, you can do a 2-minute street clean. And the possibilities are endless. So you could have a 2-minute forest clean, a 2-minute park clean, a 2-minute yard clean, and just removing the litter. And you can take a picture and send it to us, and we might send you some nice goodies in return. You can think before you flush, which is another initiative we work on in the Clean Coast programme, and that's basically just thinking before you flush the loo, are you just putting tissue down there and nothing else? And most importantly, learn about your marine environment. So I know you're already marine experts, so there's no point telling you to learn about it because you're already there, and it really will help you make more informed decisions and help you solve the problem of marine litter in the marine environment and help you understand the habitats and wildlife that reside there. So that's it, guys. Thanks a million. It was short and sweet.